Good afternoon and welcome to Valley Views. I'm your host, Glenn Edison. We're certainly glad to have you. And you can always see our shows on BTC Fiber's YouTube page as well as BTC Fiber's Channel 18. And today we have with us three fine ladies with the Bledsoe County Cancer Network. We have Ruth Burton here. She's the chairman of the Cancer Network. We have Regina Moffit over there and Lehan Winningham here. So glad to have y'all with us. And thank you. And I guess we want to start out with a little background of the Cancer Network, Ruth, and tell us how long it's been around and some of the things it does.
Sure. Our official name is the Bledsoe County Cancer Care Team, and that is what we are organized under. We are a charitable organization, 501c3, and so all your donations are tax deductible. And what we try to do is just help people in our community who are undergoing treatment for cancer. This group was started several years ago by a dear friend, Sherry Pendergrass, who, while she herself was undergoing cancer treatment and very ill herself, reached out to help other people. And what she saw was very clearly that there are what we call hidden costs of cancer. And that is, even if you have insurance, some people don't, but even if you have insurance in our rural area, you may have to travel a long way for treatment. You may have to go several times a week. You may have a family member who has to take off work to take you. You lose time from work, and so a lot of those costs are very expensive. And so what Sherry envisioned, and she strong-armed a group of her friends to come together and form this team. What she saw, and we have tried to keep very clear to her vision, was if you're undergoing treatment for cancer, or if you know someone who is, you can give their name to any board member, and you get a check in the mail. All we need is your name, address, phone number, your diagnosis. We may ask for a little more information, just as confirmation. This is not based on income. There is no other question asked, but just that we need what we need to know to be good stewards of the money that's donated. Right. That's it. And what we've seen is heartwarming, because people, those lucky group who don't need it at the time for whatever reason, are so great about sending the check back and saying, give this to somebody who needs it more than I do. So we don't make that decision. The person who gets the check does. And we have never gone wrong that way.
No, and I realize, as we talk about cost, it doesn't matter if you have insurance or not. The cost goes beyond what most people can afford anyway.
It does. When you take a trip to even to Chattanooga to get treatment, as these ladies will be telling you, besides your gas, and you have to have a reliable vehicle, you're going to be gone long enough that you need to eat at least once. Right. So there's a lot involved in that. You're correct.
Right, and if you had to do that all out of your pocket, people have bills to pay and food to buy.
It's
and
overwhelming.
Their own bills,
Overwhelming.
It certainly is. Well, tell us a little bit about yours.
About my journey.
About your journey.
That's what we call it. We call it my journey. I was diagnosed in February of 20. I had just lost my father a month prior to that to cancer as well. So my cancer story is got several chapters, because we dealt with my father's illness, him passing, me being diagnosed. I've had family members to pass. So cancer has impacted me in a lot of ways. But I was diagnosed in February of 2020. I had invasive ductal carcinoma, and I was what they call triple negative. It was not hormone fed. I did have something called HER2 syndrome. HER2 positive is what I was. And that is an enzyme that your body produces to replicate a cell quickly. And while I was being treated with the 2 different chemotherapies that I was taking, I was also taking an immunotherapy for the HER2. And that was for 1 continuous year, calendar year. So even though I had my chemotherapy schedule, had surgery, a little healing time, then I did radiation, and that was 26 consecutive treatments daily. I got a weekend break. That's it. And then it was March the 22nd of this past year that I completed my treatment. I was able to confer with my doctors. Of course, we were right in the middle of a pandemic, which really played a interesting part with my journey. But I was able to return to work in May. So I got to spend the last month of last school year in-house with my kids, which I missed because I was very blessed, fortunate to be able to teach remotely because of the pandemic. And that allowed me to kind of keep my head in the game, because this whole process is such a mental, I don't know if we would call it a challenge or if you would just call it a catastrophe, because honestly, there are days when you have got it together and you realize, okay, I've got a treatment this day, and I do this and I do that and then I do this, and you almost have a checklist. And then there are days when you feel like, okay, if I can make it till 2:00 today, then I'm not going to be sick anymore and I'm going to feel better. And those things, I didn't dwell on that because that's just not who I am as a character. But there were days when it was lousy, and it was really lousy. And we are blessed to live where we live because of folks like our cancer care team, our friends, our family, our network, our church families, our communities. It is just unreal how supportive that everyone is when you're in a crisis like that. And I call it a crisis because you don't expect that in your lifetime. You just don't. You plan for it. You purchase the insurances and you try to do the things that you hope will not create that situation. But cancer has no, there's no guidelines. There's, it doesn't matter if you're a child or well into your golden years, as they say. And you never know when it's going to hit, but you just hope that you're prepared, and then you've got great supports that can help you.
Well, I know with the cancer, I tell people this all the time. I had a liver transplant about 5 years ago, and because I had a hereditary hemochromatosis, and it caused me to have cirrhosis of the liver. I don't drink or anything like that. It just eat my liver up.
Right.
But in the process, before my transplant, I had cancer twice. 2 little cells that popped up, and the first one they took out with a stent. They were able to do chemo beads, and then the second one, when it popped up, that's when they called me 3 days later and said, "Get here, we got a liver." So
fantastic.
I know about those days because even though some days you think you're mentally tough, I think I'm mentally tough, but there's just days when those things go on, and you just say, "Man."
You're like, "Oh, we'll start again in the morning." Yeah. Right. We'll just start again in the morning.
Yeah. So I understand that, and that's a lot of days, like I say, you're positive one day, and the next thing you know, you're mentally down, and some people don't understand that, and that's why it's good to have a support network.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest with you, not everybody has that strong mental fortitude, and it's unfortunate because it truly does mess with your mind, not just how you feel or facing your mortality or something of that nature. It's what is your tenacity, what is your strength, what can you cope with, and what can you not cope with. And there's a lot of people that don't have those coping strategies. Unfortunately, I chose dark humor as mine, so it was fine. That's how, of course,
That worked for you. You even
it
got
worked.
married.
I did. I got married without a stitch of hair anywhere, and I'm very blessed to have the kind of support and my spouse that didn't care if I had hair on my head. He was there for me through the whole journey, and I even gave him an out before we got married. Right when I found out I was diagnosed, I said, "If you're going, go now." And he said, "I'm in it for the long haul, babe." So,
Well, that's great.
And still with me, even though I'm in remission, and that's a tricky word if you're familiar with the whole process. If people think you aren't receiving treatment any longer, and you're doing well, you're back in the job or whatever, that you're cured, and that cure can mean a lot of things. That word remission can mean a lot of things. I no longer have cells present in my body. My treatment that I received put my cancer into remission, but I will always be screened for years and years to come to make sure that I'm not having any metastasis. As we know, that's just where it would move somewhere different. And even one of our team members, she's been through the breast cancer journey, and now she is dealing with cancer that has metastasized. So she's back in treatment, and we always keep Miss Gail in our prayers for that. But I'm telling you, it's a different world to experience it, like my friend here, caring for someone with cancer, and when you're actually going through the journey after caring with someone, because the things that you see are horrifying. You know this. It's tough. And then the whole time that you're facing it, you're like, I remember when this happened to so and so. And then of course you've got some folks that'll say, hey, this happened to me, and if this does, this is what you need to do. And those are great people. I'm telling you, if it hadn't have been for sour gummies and ice packs during chemotherapy, and I would have never known that had someone not been able to share that with me. And I'm thankful. But I did have a friend gift me with 5 pounds bag of sour gummies. My kids are still enjoying those. But those were very helpful because one of the types of chemotherapy that I was taking produced just this horrible taste in your mouth when it's being infused. And that was one of the things that would eliminate that symptom, and it would help with my nausea after the fact. So it was very interesting. I said, there's all kinds of little tricks, and there's no book that says that. When you go to the hospital and you find out you're diagnosed, there's nothing in that book that says sour gummies will do this, So it's really good that we're able to reach out and talk to our folks in the community and share some of our stories and be as supportive as possible, because every person's journey is so different. I had a best friend diagnosed 3 weeks after me, invasive ductal carcinoma, but she was hormone positive. She was all these other things, and her treatment was so differently. It was radical compared to mine. And even though we both went through that same journey at the same time, again, it's a different vehicle that we were in. And I said, that's one thing that you never know what you're going to face when you talk about those costs. When you talk about those costs.
And the unfortunate truth to cancer is it's touched everybody.
Absolutely.
Not in the same way
right.
as these two ladies will share. Not in the same way, but nobody has escaped some effects of cancer. And that probably makes it the most worthwhile group I've ever been involved with.
Yes.
And we have a wonderful team who are in it for the right reasons because they care for people and want to help people.
Well, talking about your teams, you mentioned your board members. How about let's talk about them?
Our treasurer is Gail Denny. Our secretary is Debbie Collier. That's 3 of us. We have Patsy Angel, Donna Lloyd, Will Holt, Pam Sims, Joanne Britt, and we have 2 new board members. One of them is Regina and Kay Berkebile. And Shonda Holt has been very involved with us also. So we've got a great group. We work well together. We're just there to try to help people. And the community responds. Everything we take in, the money that's sent to people, it's donated. We get a great response from that, from people who are willing to help. We do fundraisers. We ask people to watch out for those. Of course, COVID has changed that too. We've had to readjust, but that's where our money comes from, is people in the community. And so it goes real well. We have a Facebook page that's Cancer Care Team, so you can look us up there. And there's a link on it. They've changed it to now they have the blue button that says shop, but if you do that, it takes you to PayPal, and you can donate directly. You can also go by Citizens Tri-County Bank in Pikeville and drop off a donation, see any board member, and we'd be happy to help tell you how. So PayPal, Bledsoe County Cancer Care Team.
Well, what kind of fundraisers do y'all do?
Well, we've had, probably our most successful has been centered around Sherry's Ride, which we have in the fall usually, and is named for Sherry Pendergrass. That's been a fun thing, and we do breakfast and have other things, do raffle type things. We have Bobby Lloyd Chicken. We do those lunches as soon as we can get back in the schools. They're really supportive of us.
Can't go wrong with those.
Can't go wrong with those. So
You can never go wrong with Bobby Lloyd Chicken.
and so they're, of course, Donna Lloyd is a board member, and they're very gracious to help out the team to try to raise money, and so that helps us too.
Well, good. Regina, tell us a little bit about your perspective from all this.
My daddy was diagnosed with prostate cancer in 2006. He had to undergo a radical prostatectomy to remove his prostate, the surrounding tissue, and the lymph nodes. He did very well after surgery, stayed in remission for about 4 years, and then after that 4 years, his routine blood work determined that his PSA level had started to increase, which meant that there were cancer cells somewhere in the body. His oncologist in Chattanooga at Erlanger recommended that he undergo localized treatments, localized radiation treatments. He did that for about 2 months every day, responded very well to the treatments. The radiation did what it was supposed to do and eradicated those cancer cells, and his PSA was once again undetectable, which is what it's supposed to be after a radical prostatectomy. The prostate is what produces the PSA, and without the prostate, you're not supposed to have a PSA that's detectable.
Yeah.
So after the radiation treatments, he did very well. Probably 2 or 3 years, the PSA started to elevate once again. The doctors determined that he needed to have what they call Lupron injections, which is a hormone type injection, which is supposed to not cure the cancer, but stop those cancer cells from growing. He stayed on the Lupron injections for several years and responded well to that treatment. And then, once again, his body got used to the Lupron injections. The PSA started to elevate again, and then they incorporated some other medications with the injections. About 1.5 years ago, he started having some difficulty walking, and they thought that might be a side effect from the chemo pills that he was taking. So they did a CT scan, and it revealed that there were some scattered lymph node involvement around the pelvic area. So they changed up his medication regimen once again, and continued to monitor that PSA, which it would stay good for a while, and then it would start to elevate, and they would change his medication up. last summer, it was actually the summer of 2000. Well, this is 2001.
Mhm.
Last summer, my son was getting ready to graduate from high school, and he started having a little GI issue and stomach pain in addition to the trouble walking. And so they did another CT scan, and it revealed that the cancer had metastasized into the stomach, and behind the stomach, the inferior mesenteric artery was encapsulated with the cancer. So we got the diagnosis last December 10th that it was unfortunate. He was no longer responding to treatment, and he lost his battle 7 months ago, April the 7th. That was probably, to receive a diagnosis like that, you feel like your world's stopping, you know.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know, we left the doctor's office and we go out to the parking lot, and everybody's still going about their daily activities. The world still spins.
Mhm.
Yours feels like it's stopped,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you know, you feel helpless when you check out of that doctor's office and know that that's going to be the last time that that you go. But my dad was really good friends with Dr. Philip Burns, and we sat down and we talked, and he said, well, do you think maybe Dr. Burns could direct us in a different path? Maybe there's another option out there. And so I went down to Burns Farms, and Dr. Burns was down there, and he set me down in the office inside the barn, and I explained to him what we had been told by the doctor, and given the diagnosis and talking it over with him, he said, well, the doctor that your dad has seen, he's probably in my top 3, and most likely that is correct, but I will get with him, and we'll see if there are any other treatment options out there. Well, unfortunately there wasn't, but you always still want to have hope.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You always want to have hope that there's something different out there that you can try, but
You may want to tell your dad's name. Maybe some people would know
yeah, my
him.
dad's Tom Frazier. He was actually the road superintendent here for 20 years.
So can I ask either one of you about, in your journey, your family's journey, had you heard of the cancer care team before then, or
I think
did the cancer
Yeah.
care team have an impact on you?
Oh, absolutely. I knew Sherry before she passed. I
Yes.
knew her through her battle. My grandmother was a business owner here in town, so I grew up
And tell her
knowing
name.
a lot.
Everybody
Miss
knows
Jewel
her.
Reese, and yes, I have a lot of OAKES in myself. She's from the Oaks line.
That's a good thing.
It's not a bad
Not a
thing.
bad
They're
thing.
tenacious people, and I'm thankful because I think I get a lot of my grit from her. She was always involved with things going on here in the community, a supporter of that. And of course, like I said, we're all impacted. You shared that we've all been touched with cancer at some point. Well, my grandfather passed from cancer in, I'm going to tell my age. Wow, it was 88, November of 88. I had just been out of high school for a hot minute. And when he passed, even then, the protocols, the treatments, all of those things were evolving.
Right.
He ended up with cancer in his appendix, which was so
wow.
unusual. He became a
That's-
case study at Mayo
Really?
Clinic.
I imagine so. That's
So,
really, that's
and,
odd.
and even back then, I don't know that there was necessarily a cancer team, but there were folks who wanted that same vision. They would want to help. They tried to put him on a rotation because he was going to burn up his time that he had left with the state so that he could be home and enjoy. He chose not to have any kind of treatment, but there were folks that were generous enough, like our team, that were like, okay, I'll come stay with him. Well, let's put this on a schedule. Let's impact him that way. My phone calls that I got from Miss Gale, just sometimes weekly, sometimes every couple of weeks, or a text message to check in on me, besides the financial support from the check to help pay for trip after trip after trip for hours at a time. I'm talking about the type of chemotherapy that I took. It was not a bit unusual to be in that treatment room for almost 8 hours.
Right.
And it wasn't just the fact that I'm sitting there, and of course, during COVID, you're sitting there alone. This was a whole nother mental challenge. But my dear sweet mother, who was fortunate enough to be able to get me to a lot of my treatments, she couldn't even come in the hospital. So her being able to, go get something to eat, not have to worry about her being taken care of, besides, being able to get the fuel to get back and forth, those kind of things. It was just such a blessing, the way that we were impacted. Yeah.
And I think as far as financial, that's good, and everybody needs finances, but we probably hear back equally for people with so much gratitude of, here is solid evidence that my community cares for me,
Oh, absolutely.
that I'm not in this alone.
Oh, yes.
There are people out there who
I got cards,
who care for me.
letters, phone calls, text messages. I had little gift bags left on my front porch, and there were lots of members of the list that she put on here who responded to me, but then there were extended folks from these people, family, friends of theirs, that knew what my situation was. So it was a blessing to have that much support. And I that's what I said. It takes a village it takes a village to raise a child, but it takes a village to keep their community, to keep their members safe, secure, feel like we're cared about, that kind of thing. And it was just a blessing. It's a blessing that we have a team that's dedicated to this, but I'm blessed to live in a community where we have a team that's
Well, that was
this
one of the
dedicated.
biggest things when I had my transplant. I got cards from people I didn't know,
Oh yeah.
and I'm thinking, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know who you are, but thanks.
Right.
And from everywhere. And it was nice to know that the people there think. And I think in this valley, that's just the way people are. When it comes to something like this, they're back, got your back. They're right behind you.
And it was at least impactful enough on your family that Regina said, okay, I want to pay it forward, and you do too.
Yeah.
But I'm in it with you now, and there are other families going through this, and I want to help too.
I will never forget when my mom went to the mailbox and she got the card which said it was from the cancer care team, and we opened it up and there was the gift, but just the words to the card that said, hey, we're praying for you. At a time like that, that means everything.
Oh, it sure does.
It certainly does. And I thought, after my dad passed, I thought he was good to everybody. Everybody that knew him loved him. Ever since I was a little girl, he always enjoyed helping people. And after he passed, I thought, that card, and knowing that the community, people in the community were selflessly giving their time to organize, activities and fundraisers to help people with cancer in our community.
And community events are not easy.
No.
I mean, I'm not saying that, it's a drudgery or whatever, but, I've been a member of the Fair Association, and so I understand. It takes work, and everybody is a volunteer. We choose to do this. We don't feel obligated to do it. You feel called to do it.
Absolutely.
You feel a prick in your heart that says, hey, this is what's right. Let's get this done.
Well, and just to add to what you said, Regina, we are not a religious organization,
Right.
and yet we all bring a faith to it. And every person in our community that we get their name, And in a small community, you think we've hit most of them,
Mm-hmm.
but all those people are also prayed for.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, because I found out that attitude determines your altitude.
Right.
And if you're going through a crisis like cancer, you have to have a positive attitude about it. And there's so many people that don't, and their fight is not as successful.
Mhm.
And so.
And there's times even after losing my dad and me surviving it, you go, what's different? Why me? Why am I still here? I'm mean. Why do I need to do, I mean, like I said, I do approach a lot of things with humor, but there's that reflection of, okay, I got that strength from that one. That's why I'm still here. So it's all good.
First thing my doctor told me when I went fixing to go under, he goes, well, you might die. I said,
Buddy, that's probably not the way to put somebody under.
I just looked at him and I said, well, I'll be asleep. I said, I won't know.
So I won't know. Won't know if I don't wake up. So we're good. That's all right.
But he was really good, and I no longer have to have my annual checkups.
Fantastic. So how long were you on a donor list? I'm just curious.
Actually, what had happened, my donor list, my numbers were still pretty good, because I was actually fairly healthy other than being overweight. And everything was going along fine. And then the first cancer popped up, and they took care of that pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I went back for another CAT scan, they saw that other cancer, and it was bigger. They said, we got to get it, because the cancer in the liver, it can be in one place, and the next thing you know, it's over here, and it can be around everywhere. Well, you know that.
And circulatory like that.
And so they didn't want it to do that, because with the liver, if it got too extensive, they couldn't do a transplant.
Mm-hmm.
So when they saw that second cell, they said, let's do it. And then they called me and said, get here. I had to be there within 4 hours.
Wow.
Then I had to wait about 10 hours before they did the surgery.
Of course.
but I'm thankful. It's just, because that always puts a thing in my mind, that anything can happen, because didn't know I had hemochromatosis,
Mm-hmm.
didn't know I had the cancer in there. Everything was, because I was fine. I felt fine. And a lot of times that's how people are. You don't have any after effects or anything. You just going along, and all of a sudden one day you get hit in the face.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, sometimes, everybody has different symptoms. Just like with COVID, not everybody has experienced that same symptom. So, like you said, sometimes you kind of get a little inkling and maybe a little, oh, this could be something not so. And then sometimes, like you said, you're just hit with it, and you're like, what do you mean? You don't expect it.
Well, I know when I was first diagnosed with hemochromatosis, before they diagnosed me, they said, well, it might be cancer. So when I sit at church, I think, well, that'll be a good song to sing at my funeral. That'll be a good song to ask every time. And that was on my mind, because it was going to be like 3 months before I could ever see the doctor. And so I don't think, well, I don't like that song. And I'd write them down,
So you were probably thinking of your crowd, your audience, right?
And,
yeah, I just want to mess with mine. I'd play Pop Goes the Weasel or something like that, just to see who's going to pop up next.
Well, before I forget it, how can they contact you, Ruth, if they need to? And
Any one of those board members that I named, and we're in different places around town. I'm sure you can go by your work. Would that be okay?
Sure.
Just drive through the drive-through
I work at
window.
Sequatchie Valley Electric. Yeah.
At Sequatchie Valley Electric. Ask anybody in town how you can get a hold of one of us. Like I said, if you go to the Facebook page, we're very responsive there. But you can contact any member. If you don't know one of us, ask somebody, and somebody knows one of us. And a lot of us are in the phone book. Just give us a call.
Well, I know coming up is the Christmas parade and light the Christmas lights
the town,
right?
town, which I'm excited about. But are y'all planning any?
We're going to be part of that. We hope to do a Bobby Lloyd chicken dinner. We're working on that. And okay, good. How many plates would you like, Will? And we're trying to set up the carriage rides. Will
Oh, yeah.
Holt is very involved with horses. Patsy and Joe Angel have a beautiful carriage that they are going to let him use, and
Like a
so
handsome cab kind of thing.
I think that'll be
Lovely.
really nice. We've had a lot of interest in that, and so I
Mhm.
hope that works out, and we'd like to do that annually too.
Yeah, that'd be really neat.
Light Up the Town is going to be beautiful. I'm very excited about it.
that. I really
Yeah,
am too.
when I talked to the Henrys about that, Miss
Lola
Miss
is,
Lola,
Mhm.
you know, I got excited. That's going to be really neat.
Yeah, Lola had that idea, and she's a dynamo, and
Oh,
the
already
Henrys
it's
jumped
taking
in
shape,
with her,
yeah.
and so
Well,
it's going to be nice.
When you see places, and I talk about Pigeon Forge, when they light up in Gatlinburg, they really light up, and I always think, man, that's so pretty, because they have so many things, and the fact you're having something here, it's not as big as Pigeon Forge, obviously, but it's going to be pretty.
And we don't want to go that big, do we?
No.
That much traffic. We
We
don't
we
want
want that Norman Rockwell.
the ourselves.
What is
right.
that? What is that? That hometown.
Yep.
Yeah, step back in
Good.
time a little bit, see it all lit up.
Every Saturday, they pull together a schedule of events, and I think there's going to be one Friday, and then the churches are doing something one Sunday afternoon, but every Saturday, beginning the night of the parade, which is the Saturday after Thanksgiving.
27th,
And
I believe.
we'll be going wide out.
Well, good. Was there anything else we need to bring up that we haven't brought up?
I think you've covered it.
Well, good.
But
Follow
like I
up with your
said,
screenings.
Yes.
Always follow up with your screenings.
Yeah.
Always, any of them, and some of them are age related, not even sex related.
No one
Don't
is
start on
exempt.
me.
I'm not playing. I got my notification that there was some things I needed to get checked, and I'm like, I'm not
Yeah.
ready for that
Yeah.
yet. Well, yes, I am. Obviously,
I'm
I
going to
am.
do it.
Are you?
I'm gonna do it.
Should we go together?
Let's
Make an appointment.
No, they can handle us.
You're right. You're right, because I don't know what I might say under anesthesia. I have no idea.
Well, I know. Well, I'll take
Thank you, Glenn, for having
Well,
us.
thank
We
you.
appreciate it very much.
Appreciate it very much for y'all having y'all today.
If we can talk to any group or go out and anybody'd like more information, just let us know.
All right, thank you.
We'll come up with some good information for them.
All right, good.
Maybe even about the cancer care team.
Maybe. Absolutely, about the team, yes.
Well, again, thank you for watching today. And again, you can watch us on BTC Fiber's YouTube page as well as BTC Fiber's Channel 18. And until next time, have a good day. Hey everybody, this is Glenn Edison from Valley Views. We appreciate you watching our shows, and we would like for you to like, share, and follow us on Facebook, as well as like and subscribe to our YouTube page.
Brought to you by Bledsoe Telephone Cooperative, your full-service telecommunications provider right here in the Sequatchie Valley.